have this problem here. I need to, if n of x is equal to the composition of these three functions, f of g of h of x, and I know that n of x, this whole composition, is going to be equal to the square root of 2x to the fifth, I have to find f of g and g of x and h of x by decomposing the function, decomposition of the function. So the way that I need to do this is I first need to understand what's going on here. Well, if I were to rewrite this, I could say f of g of h of x, just what's up there, is actually equal to my h of x. When I plug it into my g, so whatever I get for g, I'm plugging it into the h of x. And then whatever I get from here, I'm actually plugging this in to my f. So all of this into the f. So now that I understand this, I have to kind of label this on and understand that this is talking about my outermost function outside, and this, as I go over here, it's going to be going into the inside of the function. So I can look over here and say, okay, let's start from the outside. It might be easier to start from the outside, go in. You can choose which way you want to go, but we have to find f of g, g of x, and h of x. And this becomes a trial and error method, because after you find it, you're going to have to test it out by actually plugging it back in, see if you get the function back. So f of g is my outermost. So I'm going to look at what's happening at the outer part. And I see that there's parentheses here to the fifth power. So I'm going to start with that. And I'm going to say, okay, I got to use the same variable. So whatever I get from g after I do this composition to the fifth power, that should be my answer for f of g. So now I have to look at what this g is. So I'm going to go in a little bit further. G of x is in the middle, so it has to be whatever this is. So I'm going to look at how it can be grouped. And remember my grouping symbols, parentheses, brackets, and I could say the square root. I could say the exponents. So if it was something like x to the fifth, whatever's in these parentheses. So there's several ways that you can find grouping. Absolute value as well, and so on. So over here, I'm going to look at my grouping. I've already done this part, so I'll take it out, make it a little bit more simple. So square root of 2x, remember I have to break this down 2 more times, so I don't say just square root 2x. I'm going to want to say, okay, my grouping is going to be, I'm grouping this 2x, and what's controlling it is the square root. So I'm going to say square root of just x. Let me take out the parentheses to make it look a little bit better. Okay, square root of x. And I didn't say 2x right away because I'm going to have to break this down one more time. So h of x, I'm going to put 2x, what was on the innermost part. So remember, h of x, it goes from the outside all the way on the inside. So after I erase this square root, remember I don't erase the variable, this is where I'm plugging it in. All I had left over was 2x. So my answer needs to be just 2x. So here we're going to test to see if this actually works. So let me copy this part. And copy it. So alright, so now that I copied it, we're going to actually plug it in. So we take this h of x, which is 2x, and I'm looking at my g of x. So right now we're just going to do this problem right here. So I'm going to copy my g of x, which is square root x. And I need to take this square root x from the g of x, and wherever I've seen x, so I've seen x right here, I'm going to plug in what I get for h of x. So I'm going to take this h of x, and I'm going to say square root 2x. I just replaced the x. And there was still an x here, which is why there's still an x. Okay? And now that I did that, this is actually the composition of g of h of x now. So all we did was take my h of x, plug it into my g. So we have to do this one more time though. So now that I know this, I'm going to have to plug it into f of g. And remember, this is all checking your answer. So at this point, we're actually done with the problem if this works out, but you always have to check your answer for these. Even if it looks really easy, sometimes you oversee something. So checking your answer on this part. So I'm going to take this square root of 2x and I'm going to plug it back in to my f of g. So I have to say f of g of h of x. So we're plugging in to our f, which is equal to, well, my f is something on the inside, where my g is, to the 5th power. So I just made a parentheses to the 5th power, and I'm going to change this to whatever I got here. And I get square root 2x. So I took all this g of h of x and plugged it in right there. Now, that's as far as we go. This is my composition of these three functions. And so I look back up here. Let me, that's messed up. All right, I have to rewrite it. Square root 2x to the 5th. Sorry, I erased the picture. But my original function looked like this, and that is the same thing that I get out. So since I checked my answer and saw that I get the same function once I take the composition, my actual answers are these three functions. And that was decomposing a function.